our way to a town called North Pole that was built in the middle of frozen Alaska, where every day is Christmas Day. America's North Pole is actually 1,700 miles south of the real North Pole. Still, the town claims it's where Santa lives. It's America's Christmas town, where they say it never stops being Christmas. Never!
You're a mighty cute girl. What would you like to have for Christmas?
I think it would drive me nuts to live here, or maybe I'd love it. The town was set up in 1953. It put everything into attracting the Christmas tourist and the toy industry in the hope that it would become America's Lapland. And it sort of has. 120,000 tourists come here every year. But there's trouble in town.
Ho, 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 ho!
This is North Pole's centrepiece, the Santa Claus House gift shop and grotto. It was set up by Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller loved Christmas so much that he became the town's first ever Santa.
This is Tammy.
His daughter now runs the gift shop.
I was raised into the business, actually, and it's just the way it is.
Are you Santa's daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
Mm-hmm. I am.
That's got to be weird.
No, not really. Not growing up here. It's a very small town. Everybody used to know everyone else. It's not that way so much anymore. But no, not really. It's only odd when you go elsewhere. You go overseas and you show them your passport with your name and where you're from and things like that.
And what is your name?
That's interesting. It's Merry Christmas.
Who called you Merry Christmas?
Oh, my dad.
Did you have a choice in that?
Oh, no.
And your name's Merry Christmas.
It is. Yeah.
You've never thought, I wish that wasn't the name?
Oh, maybe briefly when I was 12.
It is said that Santa is in permanent residence here, but today his chair is empty. Where does the real Santa... Oh, is that where
Right
Santa
here.
will sit?
Yes.
That's weird. It's odd to come to North Pole, home of Santa, and find that he is missing. Does that mean he doesn't exist after all? Who lives here? Is this town just for the tourists, or do the people here really love Christmas?
Merry Christmas!
We're North Pole, so it's the Christmas city, and kids love it. We love it. What the heck? But this is one of the greatest places I've ever been.
Why?
I love it. There's 1,600 residents in this town, and just about every single one of them, I think, can be considered a spirit of North Pole. By and large, everybody's pretty happy with this town. This is a very happy, cheerful, cheery place.
They've just elected a new mayor, Doug Isaacson. It's Monday, my first day in town, and Doug says I should meet him at City Hall.
Hi,
Hey,
welcome to North Pole.
Doug, how are
Doug
you?
Isaacson. Good, good.
Mayor.
Yes, brand new mayor.
Doug says he'll give me a guided tour.
People come from all over the world like yourselves to see North Pole, Alaska. And sometimes we've been accused of looking like nothing more than a truck stop.
He's right. The edge of town is quite disappointingly real life and not Christmas decorated at all.
We've got to create the image We say it's a place where Christmas is all year round. We're definitely going to encourage businesses to take that to heart.
This is Doug's first week in office. He says the town is going through an economic crisis. Alaskan Airlines have just cancelled a weekend Christmas package because the town isn't Christmassy enough. Doug plans to change all that.
May peace be in our homes and communities.
And you know, that's really what Christmas is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
When the angels first came, what did they say? Joy to the world, peace on earth.
Is this a peaceful place?
Absolutely. The thing about North Pole is that if you were able to be in England 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, or whatever, when your towns were just getting started, how would you set it up for future generations? That's where we are.
You're like a founding father.
Very much so. And we'll be forgotten to history and time, but not what we start, not the things that we set up properly. They'll last a lot longer. That's the fun part.
Doug has had an idea. He hopes to win the tourists back by getting the local shopkeepers to dress as elves. Doug knows this will be a hard sell, but he thinks this is how to make the town more magical.
I think some people in the town think that you're kidding, but you're not kidding, are you?
No. Okay. Maybe we could model it for them and say, hey. Huh? Hi, I'm Mayor Doug Isaacson. What would you feel like if your employer said, wear something Christmassy? If you could wear this throughout the year, would you object to that?
I'd go for it.
Yeah? How often would you consider?
I'd consider wearing it quite often, actually, if I was able to work in it.
Sweet.
Things seem to be going well for Doug, but the next stop is the noticeably undecorated computer shop come video arcade.
This is just an idea, okay? This isn't the real thing, but it's an idea.
Right now.
Look at that, huh? What do you think?
No.
I tell you what. You know, people all over the world would come to see North Pole Computers if they knew he was wearing a hat. Here, try it on just for the feel. Just humor me.
No.
As Doug continues his hard sell, I wander around the corner and notice something very un-Christmassy.
It's right there, it's right there, it's right behind you, dude. Ow! God, you knew you had a shot. Nice shot, Mike.
Jesus.
I've been hearing rumours that something happened before I arrived in town.
What's with the people shooting me?
Oh my God, I took both of them out.
It's something I think Doug will find very hard to decorate over.
Oh, you get to kill British people.
Yeah, and Russian people.
Is that a Brit?
Yep. That's the SAS right there.
Okay.
Oh, that was one of
Hey,
them.
were you just killed by a Brit?
Yeah, I was.
I'm glad. Do you never get a kind of overdose of Christmas?
Yeah, pretty much all summer.
You do?
Yeah. Because they leave the decorations up.
So what do you do to sort of, get away from that?
Come here and shoot people over the internet.
To get a sort of balance back in your life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too much festivity just brings out the need to kill. Thanks, guys.
Mayor Doug says North Pole is a peaceful place, but back in April, 6 of the town's 13-year-old boys were arrested for being in the final stages of plotting a mass murder. The murders were going to take place during the anniversary week of the Columbine school shootings. This is what inspired the North Pole children, what they were hoping to copy. Mayor Doug Isaacson is giving me a guided tour. Doug wants to bring me here to Santa's pool tabs. This shop only sells 2 things, cigarettes and lotto scratch cards. Why bring me here? But then I spot something, and now I understand. Of all the rooms in all the world, if you write a letter to Santa, this is where your letter will end up.
It's like goodness and joy.
Yes.
Sin. Do you ever get complicated letters with complicated requests?
Oh, sure. Could you bring my father back from Iraq? Could you help my mother who's dying from cancer? So what do you do with those? But
What do you do with them?
What do we do with them? We try to just send them back a card that we already have here and say, you know, Merry Christmas and so on and so forth. There's nothing we can do.
There's a lot of sad ones, a lot of funny ones.
Yeah, they do get to you. They're, you know, they do get to you.
It hadn't crossed my mind that letters to Santa would be sad. The women who work here write back to the children. They give themselves elf names.
What's your name?
Twinkle.
You're Twinkle. And
Don't laugh.
And what's your name?
Shishi.
Shishi.
When the Christmas rush comes, Twinkle and Shishi have help. Boxes of Santa letters are sent over to the nearby middle school, where the town's 11 and 12-year-olds write back in the guise of elves. It's part of the curriculum. But there's something else about North Pole Middle School, something bad. 6 of last year's middle school elves, now aged 13, were arrested back in April for being in the final stages of plotting a mass murder. What turned the elves bad? Were they serious? What was their motive? Is the town just too Christmassy?
I heard about one kind of unfortunate thing. I heard about some kids at the middle school who were planning a Columbine-style massacre.
Yeah. That's something, unfortunately, I think you hear about just about everywhere in the country.
That's weird. That's a real...
It was a shock. I think every community's had those. I commend our people here, the school people, and you have to admit they've done a real good job of catching it.
As I left, James shot me a sad look, as if to say, what kind of a Grinch are you to bring that up? I'm on my way to see the Chief of Police, Paul Lindhag, the man who arrested the boys. I want to ask Paul outright about the shooting plot, but that line of questioning had gone down badly at Pizza Hut, so I decided to ask him subtly leading questions instead.
Do you ever get people who just kind of get a kind of overdose of Christmas in it, and the whole there's just too much Christmas and there's decorations everywhere and it kind of drives them crazy and they go on a crime spree because they've just been driven crazy by the constant Christmasness of the town?
No.
What goes on? I want to do the kind of portrait of the town. You know, what bad things have you seen?
A lot of times it has to do with alcohol-related stuff, you know, people driving without licenses. I mean, we have drug activity and stuff.
Well, none of that sounds so bad. Some fighting because of drinking and some drugs and a bit of bad driving. That's not so bad.
But we had some kids plotting to kill a bunch of other kids and teachers, and we stopped it before it happened.
How did you hear about it?
A child told a parent, and then that's how we learned about it that way.
Were they serious? Were the kids serious?
Yes.
It was real. It wasn't just kids talk.
We arrested several kids, and okay. Now that's enough bad things I told you about the mayor.
I get the feeling the police chief seemed embarrassed to be talking about the murder plot in front of the mayor. North Pole is quiet now, but back in April the story was headline news.
Police have now foiled 3 alleged school shooting plots in 1 week. On Saturday, 6 boys were arrested in Alaska, accused of planning a campus shooting there.
Authorities and North Pole Mayor Jeff Jacobson had one word to describe the events taking place at North Pole Middle School this week. That word being horrified. And now, 6 7th graders are in jail for conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree.
There was a plan to bring guns and knives to school in order to shoot and kill both students and faculty.
I think also the other word I'd also say is heartbroken. I was here earlier in the day, leaving my office when I saw one of my former students being taken into custody with state troopers with handcuffs on.
That's the man I'm on my way to meet, the former mayor, Jeff Jacobson. Jeff also teaches maths at the middle school where the shootings were going to happen. He taught 5 of the 6 plotters.
People speak of you as kind of Mr. North Pole, Jeff.
I love Christmas and I love North Pole, so.
We met with the police chief. He mentioned that there'd been some trouble here back in April.
Oh, we did have a problem here in our school in that we had some 7th grade students who, for whatever reason, had developed a plot to come to school and harm other students and teachers. They were going to bring in some knives and guns, and they were going to kill students and teachers. They were going to disrupt the telephone system. They knew where the telephone controls were, and they were also going to disable the electricity, turn out the lights, and carry out their plans. They drew up a list of names.
They drew up a list. How many were on the list?
Dozens. And each were assigned who was going to do who, with what.
You weren't on the list, were you?
No, I wasn't on the list.
Nobody would want to kill you, Jeff.
Well, that's so kind. You just met me today.
I can tell. I instinctively know if somebody, would be the sort of person who would end up on a
hit list.
On a hit list for a Columbine-style massacre, and you're not that.
I'm not that kind of person. though. That's good to know.
One of the middle school's ex-students and former elf agreed to meet me, but she said she wanted it to be in a non-Christmassy location, a bar on the edge of town. Her name is Jessie Desmond.
Christmas is not my favorite time of year. I think I just always want a break from it. And then,
You're the first person I've met who doesn't love Christmas.
You need to talk to more people. It just really grates on me all the time, just in the back of my head, just Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. And when you reach the 6th grade, which is the first year of middle school, you're required to answer letters to Santa from people because they get so much mail.
What was it like?
You learn really fast that Santa doesn't exist. And it was weird because I was like, wow, I'm kind of doing Santa's dirty work here.
Jessie said 11 and 12 was just too young to become a letter-writing elf.
Did you hear about the kids planning a Columbine-style massacre in town? Apparently, they drew up a list
of people that they didn't like?
Yeah, and wanted to kill.
Well, I have a hate list on my wall. I really do.
Really? Do you have access to weapons?
I have a revolver in my bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, my dad gave it to me.
Wow.
But, a lot of people in Alaska, they have their own guns. But I have a cool shoulder holster for it, and it makes me feel kind of like a, I don't know, cop or something.
You stand in the mirror and kind of go like that?
I might.
Do you say, are you looking at me?
Jessie said I could come to her house and see her gun.
Right here. Just a small little thing.
It struck me that in a town of elves, she was a bit of a goth.
What do you think of it?
At first it was pretty cool. Did my little, I'm pretending to be a cop type thing, or James Bond or something.
That's what I'd do. Can I do it? Can I try it out? Oh, it's heavy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's heavier than it looks.
Yeah, all the better to kill people with. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
And of course you do this.
I couldn't really manage to do that because
What can you do?
Probably not a lot.
You said you had a hate list. You're not really planning to act on this, are you?
I think of mean things to do to mean people, but I don't actually go through with them. It's all talk. It's all talk.
What are the mean things?
Oh, like shooting them.
Like how?
I don't know, walking up to them when no one else is around, just bopping them over the head and just shooting them. You know, it's...
Of course, Jessie has no intention of killing anyone, and she suspects the boys were just like her, all talk, and the town only took them seriously because Americans are more jittery since 9/11. I remember something you said last night about being forced to be a letter-writing elf.
I don't know, most people, they say they're okay with it, but you know, there's just that disappointment, and no one really says it, but it's there. And there's always that one person who's like, wait, what are we doing? And that's the person that you really want to look for. The person who isn't paying attention until it's like right in front of them. And then they'll just be shattered.
It seemed to me that Jessie's sort of antipathy towards Christmas began when she was handed those letters and told to be an elf. You know, it's like the moment you sort of stop believing in God or whatever. You're going down a road and that way is belief and that way is believing in nothing. And it's a tough, you know, road to take, is the believing in nothing road. Jessie said that if I go to middle school, if I look closely in their eyes, I'll see them lose their innocence.
So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put on some elf attire. We have hats that look like this, little ho-ho, or they have Merry Christmas or I Believe in Santa Claus.
You know, when we had to do that, I think that was probably one of my first moments of real disappointment. You'll probably see it in their faces.
Cassie and Tim.
They'll just be shattered.
It's an elf requirement. Okay, so there's a lot of toys that kids are asking for. Now, when you write them back, can you guarantee or promise that Santa's going to give them these things? No, we can't promise things that we can't deliver. So, in case you don't get everything you asked for, I'm sure that you will enjoy the surprises you find under your tree on Christmas. And remember, it's always better to be good than bad. Start off.
This year I was hoping to wear a lot of clothes and shoes, but my mom can't buy us a lot of clothes because she gets paid a little bit and she paid a lot of rent. Santa, that is my wish for Christmas. I know it may seem a lot for you, but that is all I want for Christmas, to wear a lot of clothes.
You're going to hear all of these things coming from children's hearts around the world, and Santa to them is a magical person to them. So as you answer the letters and bring a little bit of joy and happiness back to them, maybe not exactly what they asked for, but they're going to get this letter postmarked from North Pole, Alaska, from one of Santa's elves. So you're going to be part of the magic of Christmas.
Do you ever get a kid saying, you know, if we're opening the letters, what does that say about
Santa? Well, at 6th grade, they're 11 and 12. They're pretty savvy. They've all pretty much discovered Santa Claus is like mom or dad. They may have younger brothers and sisters, so they're learning still that they have to be discreet how they talk about things. So I think if you were trying to do it with a 4th grade and younger, you'd probably be skating on that fantasy still being real. Okay.
For Jessie, being an elf was nothing but bad. It made her realise that if she was the magic, then the magic was rubbish.
So William, why don't you do them standing up?
Jeff really believes his elf class teaches the children to be kind and responsible.
Happy, make sure you.
But I wonder if he's inadvertently made a mistake getting his 11 and 12-year-olds to collude in Santa's business. This is North Pole, Alaska, where every day is Christmas Day. But I've now discovered that a group of the town's 13-year-olds were arrested for plotting a mass murder at the local middle school. Because the children were so young, their plans were a mix of chilling and stupid. They'd put a lot of thought into it, but they hadn't thought it through.
The part that kind of puts into perspective is here you have 12, 13-year-old boys that are going to disable the telephone system. Well, every kid and teacher basically has a cell phone. So, that was maybe in a movie, James Bond movie, where you're, disabling the communication system of a building. That might have worked in the movie. And then they had an escape plan, how to get out of school, how to go in the woods, and then it stopped right there, and it's like, and then what? So you got 500 yards from the school, then what? Where are you going to go after that?
Actually, their plans didn't end in the woods. They were going to catch a train to Anchorage, where they'd create new lives for themselves using aliases. The thing is, they hadn't checked the train timetables. Even if they'd given themselves an hour to kill their enemies and get to the station, they'd still have had a 5-hour wait on the platform. It was an ill-thought-out plan.
They were not very smart. Did you hear about their escape plan? And they were going to get on the train. How far were they going to get? We're not dealing with geniuses here. I think they just kind of felt big. They kind of had their little group, and their group was just as mean to the other group.
I've heard the plotters were goths. They were non-Christmassy misfits battling the sporty jocks who were their intended victims.
I don't think they were really going to kill us. I think they're just trying to be all cool.
They try to be powered.
They're trying to be like bad boys.
I wonder if the whole thing was just kids' talk and they were never really planning to commit mass murder. Maybe it was just a fantasy to them, no more real than the Christmas fantasy is to the adults here. And on Thursday, I have a chance to find out for sure. I get a telephone call. It's a man's voice. He says his name is Joe and that his son was one of the ringleaders. Joe says he was fighting in Iraq when he heard the news.
My wife, I was chatting with her one morning and she said, we have to talk about our son. Hey, he's not sick, but he's in trouble. I was thinking maybe he skipped a couple days of school. Maybe he stole something from the store.
All the time Joe's talking to me, I keep thinking this is the room where it would have happened. The school cafeteria.
2 or 3 of the boys were to go into the cafeteria, and the plan was to come into the school and shoot some of the kids who they felt had been picking on them. They had compiled a list of students, and they were planning on bringing guns to school and shooting the students. And my son was highly involved in it, in the fact that he had made one of the lists.
There were 15 plotters, 6 ringleaders and 9 accomplices. 15 is a huge number, and they were going to kill dozens of their classmates. It sounds to me like civil war, the non-Christmassy misfits versus the kids who fitted in.
Some of the boys were going to come into the cafeteria here, fire some warning shots. There were other kids that were indirectly involved, had been told about the plan. They were to get certain other kids out of the cafeteria when the warning shots were fired.
The warning shots would be the cue for the accomplices to shepherd the plotters' friends out of the cafeteria so the shooters could start killing their enemies.
My son was to go to the office with a rifle and disable the communications equipment, and then the other kids were going to start shooting the kids from the list. There was no indications that anything was going on. Even on the morning, he was joking around like he normally would, and he got ready like he normally would. There was no indication that anything out of the ordinary was going to happen. Either he's sociopathic or psychopathic or something, or he's a 12-year-old kid that was really not thinking that this is going to happen, or not understanding the consequences of his actions.
As Joe tells me the story, I'm thinking, well, we know the kids were never really going to do it. And so, just to make sure, I asked Joe about this.
Had the guns come to school, I think they would have done it. I think they would have. I asked my son point blank, would you have done this had the guns got here? He said yes, he would have. And he maintains that even today.
It was going to be on a Monday. And one of the kids didn't show up that day, who was supposed to be bringing some of the weapons, and so they postponed the plan.
Jeff says it's the only reason why the plot failed. The boy who was supposed to be bringing the guns in didn't show up that day. The other boys were ready to do it.
In the meantime of discussing their postponement of the plans, the plan was overheard, and then the police intervened, and it was prevented from being carried out.
I came back from Iraq, and I really didn't know how I was going to react. Part of me wanted to snatch him and shake him and say, "What is your problem?" And the other part wanted to grab hold of him and hug him and say, I'm going to protect you from this. I gave him a hug, said, "I love you." And he said to me, "We were just going to shoot the bad kids." His sister goes here. And I said, "What would happen if your sister heard the shooting, worried about you, ran to see what you were doing, and one of them kids shot her?" And I said, you don't realize that bullets don't care who they hit or who they kill. They go through people. They tear flesh and they go through, and it doesn't matter who's on the other side. He had not thought about that. That was not in the thought process.
In the end, Joe's son got off lightly. 2 years probation, 100 hours community service, and some therapy.
Do you think the kids will be able to just fit back into North Pole society?
No. I think this is kind of a big deal.
How do you get them back into a neighborhood or community that says, "I don't want you to play with so-and-so or hang around with so-and-so because he's a killer"?
Do you think the kids, because they're out of school now, but in a few months' time they're going to have to either come back to school or go to... They can't go back to North school again.
But they're allowed to go to our high school, so they can just kill us then.
They're trying to figure out why these kids would do this. These particular kids don't fit the mold of the kids in some of the other situations that have happened in the past. And I can only speak for sure for my son. He doesn't come from a dysfunctional family. We have our normal dysfunctions, but we don't own rap music with violent themes. That kind of stuff, it doesn't fit in with our lives. He's not allowed to have baggy pants that hang down. That he's not allowed to wear his hat cocked to the side and walk around looking like a little punk.
Joe says he's now trying to bridge the gap between him and his son. I go back to see Jessie, the girl who hates Christmas and has a revolver in her wardrobe. She said she'd introduce me to her parents.
In Alaska, everybody's got guns.
You gave Jessie one for her graduation.
I gave Jessie a revolver, 38 special, nothing too powerful. She should be able to shoot it.
Unlike Jessie, they're enormous Christmas fans. Edith is a former Miss Alaska.
There's two different types of people, and she is the opposite of me.
Does she know that...
Oh, that I don't really like Christmas? I told her, but I don't think she believes me.
So what's the nicest thing about living in North Pole?
You can leave your Christmas decorations up all year. It's great living here. I love Christmas. See, did you see my Christmas balls out front? But they're out there.
Yeah. Are there people who don't like Christmas in North Pole?
I don't know any. I think everybody is very comfortable with the whole Santa Claus and North Pole.
Yeah.
The whole thing of it.
It strikes me that North Pole is a strange, topsy-turvy place where the children don't believe in Santa, but the adults do. This might be the least rational place I've ever been to. Where does a town go after its children are caught trying to kill dozens of their classmates? The new mayor, Doug Isaacson, says the kids wouldn't have wanted to kill if the town had been even more Christmassy.
Let's just say that if the spirit of Christmas were permeating the entire soul of this community, no child would be feeling that despondent. What is the spirit of Christmas? Isn't it peace on earth, goodwill to men?
Then there's Joe, the soldier. Joe is dealing with it by blaming himself.
Had I been around, maybe not being in Iraq, maybe not being activated with the Guard, maybe things would have been different.
I wonder if Joe's months away from home fighting in Iraq might have done something to his son's state of mind. North Pole has been hit hard by the war. 29 soldiers from the area have so far died there. Or maybe it wasn't Iraq. Maybe kids of 12 and 13 are just irrational. Or maybe it was the town's Christmas theme.
I don't know, I guess that theory is as good as any theory. Because really, the doctors and the counselors and stuff, they have no answers. I have no answers because the boy himself has no answers.
Folks, this is the year that if you could put your Christmas lights up early, now's the time.
Right.
And
well,
especially
just about
since
escaping
it's
the time,
15
at 20
below.
Yeah.
So,
Words get kind of stiff.
yeah, I'd really encourage it. Now, unfortunately, we had a theft of lights.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is not
good.
Not good. Santa loves good boys and girls. You're on the bad list.
I keep thinking about Jesse's parents. They leave their decorations up all year round, even though their house is not a tourist destination. This is because they love their town and they want to be good townspeople. The thing is, if you want to be a good townsperson here, you have to spend your days living a weird Christmas fantasy all year round. No wonder the kids here have trouble separating fantasy from reality. But I didn't realise quite how irrational the adults are here until I saw on Monday that Santa's chair was empty and I started asking questions.
Where does the real... Oh, is that where
Right
Santa
here.
will sit?
Yes.
I'd heard a lot about North Pole Santa, and in fact I came across a picture of his driving licence. He's a local resident who's changed his name by deed poll to Chris Kringle. That's the name by which American children know Father Christmas. Before I arrived in town, Karen from the diner near the airport said I had to meet him.
His name is Chris Kringle, and he lives out in North Pole.
Is he going to be there today?
He'll be there. He's there every day, unless he's out running errands.
Since then I've been asking everyone, where is Chris Kringle?
Chris Kringle is a North Pole resident and is legally Chris Kringle on his driver's license and all.
He comes in occasionally, so he might surprise us because he comes by during the day, sometimes in the evening, but so he could pop in at any time.
Does he gamble?
Yes.
Hopefully the mayor will be able to locate that individual for you and
Hopefully we'll be able to meet
him and talk to him about it.
John?
Oh, okay. Can you have the microphone there?
There you go.
Hi. I've completely failed to meet Chris Kringle, which is a shame. I'm beginning to think Chris Kringle may not actually exist.
Chris is still around, isn't he?
I think so, yeah. Okay, well, bless your heart. Good having you here.
Thank you.
And,
I felt like maybe there was something people weren't telling me about Chris Kringle. My hunt proved fruitless. Everyone said they just saw him and he was a wonderful Santa, but I never saw him. And then I visited a school on the edge of town. This is where the kids who don't fit in with the mainstream schools end up. Some of the plotters may be taught here when their year's expulsion ends. It's the least Christmas decorated building in town.
When we built this school, we had the option of red or blue, and we decided we didn't want to be Santa's schoolhouse, so we made a conscious effort to be blue.
Wow.
So no, we haven't gone into that whole theme, but it's a great theme for North Pole, but we just didn't do it. Kids here get a little tired of that, so anyway.
Right. So this is where the kind of less Christmassy kids go.
Maybe. They're a little Christmased out, I suppose. So.
The people I know in town who did grow up here and who did grow up having to write the letters back to Santa, it takes some of the fun out of it for them and makes you might get a little jaded.
It did start, I was asking the new mayor, Doug, about the incident. I'm sorry, I feel like, Scrooge coming into town.
Yeah,
and,
really?
And basically his conclusion from the conversation I had with him about the incident was it wouldn't have happened if the town had been more Christmassy and...
He did not say that.
He did.
Christmas saved North Pole.
I wondered if the teachers here knew the whereabouts of Chris Kringle.
We were a little intrigued about this man who lives in town but doesn't seem to exist, called Chris Kringle. Do you know him?
Have you looked him up on the internet or anything?
Well, he seems to have vanished.
I think he died.
Really? You're the only person who said that. Everybody else says, I'm sure I just saw him drive by on his motorbike.
Yeah. It might be the absence of Christmas decorations that allows me to say that I think Chris Kringle is dead. I'm sorry.
Is it not possible? Why does no one else know that? Or do they know and they're not saying?
They might know and not want to say.
Is it like a town-wide conspiracy?
Maybe. Possibly.
How did you hear that he died?
Boy, I remember reading it in the paper, and I remember thinking, oh, how sad, Santa's dead. In kind of a jaded way, I suppose that would be. I hope they don't ride me out of town. The one that broke the bubble.
It's Sunday, my last day in North Pole. Today, a new Santa has arrived in town, along with Mrs. Claus. They're here to replace the missing Chris Kringle.
Ho, 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 ho. Come on up, Santa. Oh, look at this. Come on up. Come on up. Come here. Sure. Come on. Come on up. Can you come on up? Come on up. Oh, 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 ho, ho.
And this is Keris, the grotto's permanent elf.
This is one of my elves.
Well, I had a shock because I was here on Monday and your chair was empty.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, it gave me a bit of a shock.
Yes, it is.
But it's good to have you back. It feels. I agree with Keris the elf. When you're not here, North Pole seems a little empty.
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
It's great.
Do you remember him when he was a little boy?
Oh yes.
Oh,
I remember him. Took a little convincing to tell. You really let him know that Santa was real.
That's true. Very early on when I was about 4,
yes.
I told the rest of my class that you didn't exist. And the teacher pulled me out into the corridor and basically said, stop being such a secular rationalist.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, is the teacher confirming what I actually didn't really believe myself?
Now, I want you to pull. Is that real?
It is real.
That's real. And you're in, what town are you in?
Oh, North Pole.
North Pole?
Yes.
And this particular building is what?
Santa Claus house.
And you're talking to?
To Santa and Keris the elf and Mrs. Claus.
Yeah.
And all of this is, feel of me, Oh, yeah. Is that real?
Yeah.
Oh!
It would give me a bit of a fright if it wasn't.
See? Yeah. See? So if you're in a real North Pole and you're in a real Santa Claus house and Santa has a real beard and all of this is real, then Santa must be
real.
So Santa's real, but what about Chris Kringle? Last night I went to the library to find out what happened to him. I found conflicting reports. One said he survived a car crash, changed his name and moved south. The other said he died in a car crash. I never did find out for certain, but I know someone who'd know. Keris the elf. Keris would have been Chris Kringle's elf when he used to work here.
Ever since we came into town, I've been hearing talk of this guy called Chris Kringle, and I haven't been able to find him. Do you know where he is?
I do know where he is.
Where is he?
He's right here in Santa Claus' house.
Where?
He's right on that chair over there.
You're a mighty cute girl. You sure are.
Oh, I was...
That's Chris Kringle.
Oh, okay,
That's Santa Claus.
okay.
One and the same.
Right, okay, got you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Keris.
You're welcome.
Reading between the lines, what Keris the elf is saying is, don't ask any more questions. Chris Kringle may or may not be dead. It doesn't matter, because Santa never dies. It's Sunday night and I'm on my way home. In my bag, I'm carrying a letter from Santa to my son Joel. Santa says that Joel is very close to the top of his list of good boys and girls, and very soon he'll be on his way to visit our house. My son is thrilled to receive this letter. I remember where it came from, Jeff's elf class. Looking back, I suppose in some ways it was like an elf sweatshop. But then I think, oh well, maybe scores of North Pole children are having their fantasies destroyed. Maybe once in a while the kids will go crazy and want to kill everyone. But look at my son. He's enchanted, and in the end, isn't that what matters?